Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to this edition of Conversations with Imtiaz Gul. Pakistan has been caught up in a very turbulent situation ever since the opposition parties moved a vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister and the developments thereafter, particularly the events on April the 3rd, the way the National Assembly business was conducted is quite a controversy about it. And obviously, regardless of which way the courts think, Pakistan seems to be now heading into another phase of uncertainty as well as into snap elections. When exactly, we don't know. But this impact of this situation obviously is very debilitating, particularly on an economy that is struggling on multiple fronts, particularly with the current account deficit, where the imports are almost double the size or the volume of the exports, and that creates an extremely difficult, precarious situation for the country. That's why we thought we should just survey as to what would be the impact of this uncertain situation on Pakistan in general and the economy in particular. For this, we have with us Noaman Abdul Majid Sahab, who is an economist, geopolitical analyst, and of course social worker, is dealing with multiple fronts on the philanthropy side. So welcome Noaman Sahab. And the first question, as you may have also figured out from my intro, is about the impact of the current political crisis on the economy in general.
Thank you, Imtiaz, for inviting me. You see, Pakistan's history, if you look at starting from 90s, when we started having a continuous political government, despite, with some breaks, one of the fundamental problem has been that whenever a new government comes in, they cancel or they abrogate the economic policies, and somehow there's a propaganda or there's a narrative that the economy was in a mess when we inherited it, and now we are trying to fix it. Unfortunately, before they start fixing or they perceive that something, a continuity is setting in place, the government is gone. So in the 75 years of history, basically, as you were expecting that Imran Khan could be the first prime minister who could last his full term of election, basically the 5 years, but unfortunately, it did not happen this time either. So it has a direct impact on the economic policy framework, especially when the opposition's claim to fame against Imran Khan is that he has messed up the economy. And Imran Khan made the same claim when he came into power, that he inherited the economy in a very bad shape. The most important thing regarding the economy or the economic policy is the economic continuity. That are we going to continue the economic policy framework? Are we going to reverse some of the projects which were envisaged by the earlier government? Or are we going to stick to the framework? This is the first and most important thing. What people are fearing basically is the policy continuity, is the perception management. Whether it's the political side, and of course political side has a direct impact on the economy. So from the political perspective as well as the economic perspective, in computers we call it as a business continuity planning. This is basically whenever something bad happens, the business should continue as usual. Pakistan unfortunately has not had any business continuity plan despite the very active and very frequent political, I would say, failures or upheavals or chaos that we have faced. I think the most important thing for the current stakeholders, and there are 4 stakeholders as we know in the system right now. Basically, it's the army, it's the judiciary, is the current or the immediate past government, and the immediate past opposition, which is the Moon and company. I think all 4 stakeholders should agree upon something, that the economy will remain a top priority. We will ensure that the economic confidence is not rocked, whether it's domestic investor or foreign investor, and we have an economic continuity plan in place, which ensures that some of the good work which was done by the previous government, it continues.
May I interrupt here before get into the challenges now that the next government will be facing? How would you assess the last 3.5 years? Did we see signs of continuity and the positive impact, if at all there was, on multiple sectors of the economy?
You see, my view is that of late, if you look at since the COVID started, yes, the government struggled in the first year of government, and the rupee went down very fast. The interest rates were very high, but I think since the COVID started, they have managed pretty okay. They have managed pretty well, I would say. Reason being, the COVID, Pakistan was the only country which did not go for a complete lockdown. It was a smart lockdown. One of the reasons that we started having a lot of export orders was that Bangladesh and India were in a complete lockdown state. So people said, okay, this is one country where the lockdown is not happening. Government is insisting, the Prime Minister is saying that we should go for a smart lockdown policy. And especially the export sector must continue. So due to that continuity factor, which I just mentioned earlier, during the COVID time, a lot of the business came from China, from Bangladesh, from India in the textile sector, and it stayed on. Once the international clients come to our jurisdiction, they don't really like to change it very often. So that was one thing for the COVID part. Then another important factor again is the continuity part, that the economy should not lose steam, should not lose momentum. So other than the very frequent episode that went for the full lockdown, the economy was continuing. So once the economy is not completely shut down, it is much easier to reinvigorate it, to fasten it up. Once it goes for a complete shutdown, then the restarting is very problematic. The second thing is the IT exports. IT exports are formally around $2 billion. But if you talk to different businessmen, they are of the view that the IT exports have almost gone up to $4 to $5 billion. Because a lot of money which is shown in remittances is basically the IT money, which is coming through for some tax reasons or whatever reason. So IT and textile exports are basically two landmark achievements, I would say, which have done well. And of course, last but not the least, and which will be the main challenge for any incoming government, is the dollar value. The dollar is continuously going down for various reasons. I think that over a period of last 20 years, whether consciously or unconsciously, we have kept our dollar regime in such a way that we allow money laundering, money to go out due to smuggling, due to transit trade, due to hawala system, due to very lax import policy, etc., etc. We can go on talking about it. There are so many various factors which affect, which as a result, this dollar is going down.
This begs the question as to whether preserving the parity between rupee and dollar, or at least preventing further slide of the Pakistani rupee's value, and also containing imports. Will this be the short-term challenge for any government that now takes over?
The biggest challenge for any government is going to be the dollar value, because dollar value in Pakistan creates a lot of issues. Number one is the inflation. Well, like the inflation all over the world is very high, but inflation is higher in Pakistan. Reason being the dollar value. There is an international increase in commodity prices, and then we have to pay more due to the depreciation of our currency. Number one. Secondly, due to dollar depreciation and the current account deficit, which is the root cause of dollar going down, we have to go to IMF again. And going to IMF has both financial and political implications, because IMF has a certain standard policy framework which sort of it implements all over the world. Pakistan needs a lot of customized and domesticated policy framework, which we are unable to implement thanks to IMF. And then it creates a negative perception as well. No foreign investor would like to go in a jurisdiction where the dollar is continuous, where the currency is not stable. And if you look at currencies of India and Bangladesh, which are our neighboring countries, their currencies have remained pretty stable. They have not depreciated as much as Pakistan. So there is no reason. So that old argument that once currency goes down, you have more exports, and your imports go down. The fundamentals of Pakistani economy are very different. So that argument has been proven long time and again. The most important thing for any incoming government is going to be to preserve the value of the local currency through a combination of measures.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask, basically, whether the value of dollar, this high value of dollar vis-a-vis Pakistani rupee, how much is it linked to internal factors, and how much are some external factors responsible for this slide in the value of Pakistani rupee?
External factors, let's talk about first. Of course, it's high commodity prices, which are playing a role in, because the dollar is still $100 plus, the value of oil, and all the other commodities like cooking oil, which we use very generously at our homes, and things like that are, they are very high levels. And the biggest exports of Pakistan are basically palm oil and the crude oil, basically the products. So this is one factor, of course, which is affecting the government, but it has been partially offset by the increase in exports, and by the increase in remittances, and by the increase in, I would say, the service exports. Of course, that is partially offsetting it. Now coming to the the local factors. The smuggling is rampant in Pakistan through various borders. You just go to the market, you will see a lot of the consumer goods, even the textile goods. Pakistan, although the textile country, the markets are full of the textile goods from various other countries, and all this money is basically go to the Hawala system. So the Hawala system is still very robust and very strong. The most important thing is basically to control this Hawala system, the informal Hundi Hawala system. It needs to be controlled. Okay, after coming into power, this government did some initial crackdown. It went down, but things are pretty much normalized over a period of time. Thing is that Pakistan has a policy of allowing $10,000 per passenger to just carry in your pocket and you go and do the shopping. So billions and billions of dollars have gone out through our official immigration channels. So number two, then of course is the imports. We have to crack down now. The window of non-essential imports has closed, but still whatever we can do in terms of non-essential imports, then that need to be, there need to be a clear case for the study of what can be done, and we have to stop that. Then of course on the IT export side, recently the government announced a package of the tax incentives and everything, but that tax incentive and structural incentive package has not been announced yet. As a result of it, what's happening, that a lot of Pakistan IT revenues which Pakistan is generating through freelancers and through IT companies, that is being kept abroad. That's not coming into Pakistan.
But why haven't the government so far looked at this possibility? Like a lot of companies who are operating online, they are not getting their money in Pakistan, but Pakistanis have to pay through their nose them somewhere abroad, not in Pakistan itself. So also the IT exports, I don't know to what extent does this damage Pakistan or deprive Pakistan of valuable remittances and foreign currency.
You see, one of the reasons these companies keep their money abroad is the value of dollar, which is constantly going down. So if you give that impression in the market that government is going to stabilize the dollar value, which we have not done since going into this IMF program. Although the state bank has been putting some money into market, but still the perception is the dollar is free float. There is no government intervention. So unless, I think there has to be a very clear indication by the government that dollar is not going to be a complete free float, we will intervene, we'll set a target price, and we will ensure that the dollar is stable. Now, if the government is not saying anything, if the state bank is basically not giving a target price and saying let there be market value of dollar, then people like you and me, even we will question that, okay, where the dollar is going to end. So there has to be a line. Now, some people may argue that you cannot keep the dollar artificially low. But the problem is that there are so many loopholes in the system that you cannot keep it open as well. You have got the transit rate. I remember reading a story in newspapers some time ago that it's the overall loss to the economy in terms of ATP is around $5 to $10 billion because a lot of the stuff which comes in upon transit trade ends up in local market, and basically that is causing our local industry to go down. So similarly, as I said, there are a lot of smuggling channels through Balochistan borders and places where a lot of the stuff from neighboring countries is coming in, which is readily available, the food stuff. And of course, all these payments are made in the dollars. So there are a lot of loopholes. If the state bank, the government, the security agencies and the exchange companies sit together and agree that, okay, we have to curb down on these things, now, of course, a lot can be done. But I personally feel that a comprehensive exchange rate management mechanism has not been put in place. We have never seen during many years, I would say at least last 15 to 17 years, maybe more, around since 2005 or so, we have not seen the government actively trying to, put in place an anti-money laundering framework, etc.
Yeah, that's extremely important to inject confidence in the business community as well as in the market. But as you said, there are endemic, systemic, structural factors that are preventing improvement in the economy. There are status quo forces within the system which basically block progress. There's a lot of tax evasion, smuggling, as you pointed out. And I think these are the long-term challenges. Perhaps these are also the factors that prevent long-term redressal of these issues. So Noaman, thank you very much, and we hope to connect with you sometime very soon, sooner than later, for more insights, for more feedback on the state of economy and the impact of the political turmoil that we currently see around us. Thank you very much.